Oh, Fingy? Yeah, what is it? I'm conducting a little experiment and I need your help. Now I'm gonna say a word, and I want you to name the first 5 words that pop into your head.
Fine by me, what's the word?
The word is... Japan.
Japan? Sushi, anime, robot, pervert, Nintendo.
Aha! I knew it! Of course you'd include those 2 words. They share top billing in Japan's cultural identity. Why can't they capitalize on it?
Who, Nintendo? What are you talking about? They've got the perfect crowd on lockdown.
No, not that word. The other one.
Well, they covered sushi and anime in one fell swoop a couple years back. I don't know
Robot, Fingy, robot! Try as they might, Nintendo just can't seem to churn out a successful or satisfactory ongoing project based on robots!
Well, that doesn't surprise me. Half the people who buy their stuff are drones. Oh!
Japan loves their robots. Nintendo is fiercely Japanese. Many of their ongoing IPs like Mario, Star Fox, heck even Zelda, have or have had their fair share of robot characters. So why then isn't there a popular, mainstream, ongoing Nintendo franchise that's centered around a robot or robots? I don't suppose we'll ever know for 100% sure what the motivations behind a company that seems to love money more than their fans, yet willfully refuse to offer almost certainly lucrative business avenues to seemingly spite those fans are, but I digress. Nintendo's lack of a prominent robot-centric series isn't for lack of trying, however, because when we go all the way back to the early days of the NES, we can already begin to see their interest in pursuing robot ventures. And surprisingly enough, nearly every console they've made since has also had a short-lived robot foray, some of which even managed to get some sequels. I've managed to find 9 notable instances of this phenomenon.
But the title of this video says top 10.
10's better for discoverability. Welcome to the channel. If you're new, by the way, would you consider subscribing?
Lend a listening ear, dear viewers, and join me in some speculative pondering as we examine Nintendo's past robot games and try to assess why they haven't managed to take off and whether or not they have a chance to sometime in the future. Here's one I'm sure many of you recognize. It's the robotic operating buddy, R.O.B. This little guy is what convinced American outlets to stock up on Nintendo Entertainment Systems despite a prior hard crash for the entire video game market. Why? Well, because he's more toy than game, you see. Only difference is you need an NES to play with him.
Maybe sit on a shelf because he's...
Video game.
He's not.
Video game.
He's an action figure, has a difference.
After that, though, the likes of Mario, Donkey Kong, and Zelda did most of the heavy lifting in terms of continuing a healthy Western video game market. R.O.B. himself was merely an accessory specifically for use in the game's Gyromite and Stack Up, neither of which feature R.O.B. in the software itself, or have aged very well for that matter. So yeah, despite being brought out of mothballs to appear in F-Zero GX, Mario Kart DS, and of course the latest Smash Bros. Games, R.O.B. has not, nor was he seemingly ever intended to, become the robot poster child for the Big N. Flashing forward 8 years, but still in keeping with the NES, we arrive at Mech Fight, a 2D fighting game released at the end of the NES's life. Or should I say the Famicom's life, as this game was only available in Japan.
Oof. Limiting your audience doesn't do an IP looking to get iterative sequels any favors. And I certainly hope this isn't the beginning of a trend or anything.
The game's premier character, Sukapon, has made several appearances in the Smash Bros. Series as a trophy sticker and most recently an assist. But other than that, Nintendo's never made any sequels to Mech Fight, or even translated the game for non-Japanese players. Now to be fair, there was initially a reason for that. The intellectual property of the game technically belonged solely to the game's primary programmers, Koichi Hayashida and Koichiro Eto. I probably mispronounced that, but moving on. They had apparently signed the rights over to Nintendo back in the day, but Nintendo literally physically lost the written agreement, and therefore couldn't do anything with the IP. They recently found it again, like 30 some odd years later, but yeah, so far Nintendo hasn't done anything with the game other than put it on the Nintendo Switch Online app for Japanese Switch players only. It may be too little too late for Mech Fight to make a comeback, as the concepts of both 2D fighters and robot fighters have evolved far past this old Famicom game. But who knows? With the right set of fresh ideas and competent direction, maybe a revival could finally happen. Not likely, but not impossible.
Is that a Super Nintendo?
Look out! It's got a gun!
The Super Scope Light Gun was an accessory for the SNES, a more sophisticated iteration of the NES Zapper. It was somewhat of a commercial flop, and was only compatible with a dozen games. Two of which were Battle Clash, a game about piloting a sick giant mech and blowing up other sick giant mechs, and its sequel Metal Combat Falcon's Revenge, a game about the same thing but with higher story stakes. Why is the direct sequel to a game called Battle Clash titled Metal Combat Falcon's Revenge? I do not know. And Wikipedia's been no help, so let's just agree to never bring it up again. Deal? Deal. This little duology is notable for the fact that it's the first time Nintendo developed/published a robot-centric idea that got 2 games. R.O.B had no presence even in the games he was required for, and Mech Fight only had the 1 game, and now Battle Clash has 2 games! We're making progress! So why didn't this series take off? If I were to take a wild guess, I'd say it was being stapled to the Super Scope. I can't imagine how they could make the games work without it, and Nintendo wouldn't release another accessory capable of replicating its functions until the Wii, at which point, Nintendo and Intelligent Systems probably forgot all about the series.
Them along with the rest of the world.
You are probably not wrong. It's back! Ah!
I wouldn't mind seeing the series come back, but at this point, it probably won't.
Such a shame that Battle Clash failed to catch on due to being tethered to an underperforming Nintendo product. Anywho, what's next?
Many a gaming historian before me have recalled the tale of the Virtual Boy, Nintendo's red and black monochromatic migraine-inducing attempt at a virtual reality device in the rightful year of 1993, same year Mech Fight came out, weirdly enough, and Battle Clash and Metal Combat bookended it in 92 and 94 respectively. Really seemed like they were trying to get some sort of a robot series going. Really weird that they didn't just make these all in the same series and try their darndest to get this thing to catch on. Oh well. The fact that Teleroboxer was a premier title for this unfortunate failure of a system should probably be reason enough for the game's lack of sequels. But then again, it didn't stop Mario Tennis. But then again, it's Mario Tennis. Teleroboxer is pretty much Mech Fight and Battle Clash's love child. It retains Mech Fight's multi-sprite floating-limbed robot characters and fighting game origins, and it also retains Battle Clash's first-person perspective and anchor to a complete waste of money. I think it would be neat to bring back the series, or at the very least the lead character Harry, should Nintendo ever decide to develop more VR games in the future, a plausible scenario given their recent foray with Nintendo Labo. But other than that, I completely understand why this series never took off.
Hey, wait a minute, that sounds familiar. Have you talked about this before?
Custom-Robo!
Custom-Robo. Custom-Robo, Custom-Robo. Custom-Robo. Custom-Robo, Custom-Robo, Custom-Robo. Custom-Robo or Custom-Robo. Custom-Robo, 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 Custom-Robo. Ah, Custom-Robo. I've been missing everything about Custom-Robo.
A little, yeah.
Custom-Robo is a 3D arena fighter based around customizing weapons and accessory for your toy robot combatants developed by Noise, a former Nintendo subsidiary started specifically to make Nintendo 64 games. It was released exclusively in Asian territories for the Nintendo 64 and Chinese IQ Player, and has since been released on the Wii's eShop, exclusively in Asian territories again.
Why do you hate me?
The game was actually a moderate success, and even got a sequel for the 64 disk drive, a CD add-on for the Nintendo 64 that was released exclusively in Japan.
Why do you hate me?
The N64 DD was a bit of a flop. Are you noticing a pattern here? But Custom-Robo wasn't done yet, as it got a game for the Game Boy Advance, exclusively in Japan.
Doshite watashi ga karare no.
The Custom-Robo series would finally make its way across the pond with the GameCube's entry, Custom-Robo Battle Revolution, or as it was known here in Freedom Land, just Custom-Robo, or as it was known in Europe, I've made it no secret that I love this series dearly, and what I like about the series as a whole the most is that it has great multiplayer and single-player offerings. The GameCube game has an engaging and charming campaign that nets you more parts and familiarizes you with the world of Custom-Robo. A world, by the way, that carries elements over from game to game, while also mixing it up premise-wise in the setting each time. In Battle Revolution, you're a bounty hunter, but in the next game, Custom-Robo Arena for the DS, you're prepubescent! While I appreciate the streamlined art direction of Arena, and the fact that it was the first and only Custom-Robo game to get a wide release, I feel the story offerings were a step down from Battle Revolution.
So, Arena wasn't perfect. Hopefully the next Custom-Robo game does a bet. Why do you hate me?
Now, to be fair, it seems that Nintendo still retains the license and trademark to Custom-Robo, but just not for compact disc releases. So I guess they couldn't resell Battle Revolution or version 2 on CDs. I don't quite get all this legal stuff, but they were able to include Custom-Robo content in Smash Bros. Ultimate without crediting Noise, so I guess that Nintendo picked up the rights. Noise, however, is still an operational company. Not active, they just still exist. But Custom-Robo's creator, Koji Kenju, has since left the company, and made his own spiritual successor to Custom-Robo called Synaptic Drive. I reviewed it on this channel if you're interested. Spoiler alert, it was poo-poo. Custom-Robo was so close to becoming Nintendo's go-to iconic ongoing robot series. It sold well despite constantly being limited in its releases, it had multiple sequels, and it lends itself naturally to creative new avenues when being iterated on. Maybe the fact that the series doesn't necessarily retain one marketable protagonist, rather slight variations on the same protagonist with the Ray models, and maybe that held it back from being marketable or recognizable enough to stand out like Pokemon or Street Fighter, or whatever the heck you consider this game's contemporaries. But yeah, despite its cult status, and by cult I mean me, Custom-Robo has seemingly failed to become Nintendo's premier robot series. I'll never give up on the series personally though. It still lives on in my heart. And I honestly believe that if given a decent amount of marketing and a couple spots in Nintendo Directs, assuming those aren't completely dead too, a new Custom-Robo game could make a splash and be well received financially and critically. I don't think it's likely to get revived, but I want one really, really badly. Really badly. If for some reason you haven't watched the incomparable Scott the Waz's video that includes a full recap of Chibi-Robo's history, I'll give you the short version. Quirky second-party developer Skip Ltd makes a game about being a little robot in a human home for the GameCube. It doesn't perform too well, but neither did the GameCube. They made a pseudo-sequel on the DS, but made it Walmart exclusive in America. That goes about as well as you might expect. The first game gets re-released on the Wii, but only in Japan. They make a more fleshed out new entry for the DS, but only in Japan. They made a strange 3DS AR camera app years after the 3DS AR camera was hip. That goes about as well as you might expect. Bringing us finally to 2015, when they made a fundamentally confused 2D platformer for the 3DS that strips the game of its stylistic identity and premise. Nobody wants to buy it, especially not Chibi-Robo fans who feel betrayed by the series' new direction and identity. Skip tells those fans that the series' future depends upon its success, but that doesn't stop people from not caring, and we've not seen head nor plug from Chibi-Robo since, aside from this official render of him on fire for some reason. Almost as if to signal the fact that he's dead and burning in hell. The end. The Chibi-Robo series has arguably more potential than even Custom-Robo, considering how versatile the adventure genre and the concept of being an adorable tiny robot are, and I honestly think that if Skip can stay afloat long enough to reevaluate the direction they should take for the series, Chibi-Robo could not only come back, but also become that robo-centric Nintendo franchise we deserve. But I'm not gonna hold my breath.
And to think, Custom-Robo and most especially Chibi-Robo were held back by being Japan exclusive for so long and at inopportune times. You think Nintendo would prioritize getting their games localized in order to widen any given game's audience and potential sales. Well, anywho, what's next? What the hell's a Chosaju?
Sandlot, the developers of Earth Defense Force, made a Japan-exclusive giant mech game for the DS that made creative use of both screens. A couple of the characters got trophies and stickers in Brawl, and once again, I think it failed to take off due to being limited to one region's audience. I think this series is more likely to get revived than join Mech Fight, Battle Clash, or Teleroboxer, but that is to say, its chances are slightly more than unthinkably slim. A revival is possible, but not plausible. But in the meantime, if you think this game looks neat, I would highly recommend you check out the fan translation, where they replace every instance of the word mech with puppet. I mean, they aren't wrong, it just looks a little funky.
Suddenly I feel like my passion for robots is more like some sort of bias.
This next one really piqued my interest. Now, I'm sure those of you who are well versed in Nintendo history are aware of Excitebike, a smaller series that started with a launch title NES game. And I'm sure you're also aware of the spin-off Excite Truck, a launch title for the Wii. But are you aware of Excitebots Trick Racing for the Wii? It was a semi-sequel to Excite Truck, and I guess a sort of spiritual successor to Excitebike. I can't say I blame you if you haven't heard of it. This game sold abysmally. It couldn't even manage to break 20,000 copies. It sold worse than Codename Steam. And this was a first-party release on Nintendo's best-selling console. It was a bomb. But did it deserve to bomb? This is a game where you can control a robotic frog that races at high speeds while occasionally partaking in minigames like darts and soccer in the middle of a race, and even switch from running on 4 wheels to sprinting and grinding on rails with its hind legs. How did this game bomb? It can't just be because it never released in Europe.
Warum hassen Sie mich?
This is one of the most innovative, riveting, and pardon the pun, but exciting racing games I've ever played. And I'm an F-Zero fan. This may be one of the most slept-on Nintendo games of all time. Sure, it doesn't have the most memorable cast of characters, considering they're all just robots shaped and named after small animals. But look at that gameplay! A racing game with an additional layer in the form of these titular and minigame-esque tricks is downright genius. It's like a more fleshed out and stylish Rocket League. Years before Rocket League! And I know what you might be thinking. No, the motion controls do not stifle the gameplay. If anything, they enhance it. If I were to take a couple guesses as to why this game bombed, I'd first point out that this box art makes the game look pretty generic, like some mid to low tier second-party studio's adaptation of some sports license like NASCAR. I'd also guess that it might be due in small part to the reputation of its developer. Monster Games has since gone on to make Pilot Wings Resort, as well as aid in porting some Nintendo games, like Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D, Xenoblade Chronicles 3D, and Tropical Freeze for the Switch. But at the time, their resume mainly consisted of, well, NASCAR games. Still does, huh. So moms, dads, and kids alike who saw the game on store shelves weren't sold, and gamers who know their stuff probably thought the game wouldn't be anything special. I mean, come on, what have these devs made before? NASCAR Heat for the Game Boy Color? Yeah, thanks, I'll pass. Excitebots would be the perfect game series to bring to the Switch. Its pick-up-and-play nature, multiplayer emphasis, cathartic and high-octane gameplay, and cast of kinda cool yet kinda cutesy animal robots would probably perform really well for the system. But seeing as how the game sold abysmally low on Nintendo's highest-selling home console, not to mention Nintendo's aversion to making non-Mario Kart racing games, it's likely that this game will be left alone with its niche audience that's outnumbered by the average view count on my Only Plays animations.
Wow. I can't tell if that comment was self-deprecating or congratulatory. Either way, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Wait, you've seriously never played Project Giant Robot for the Wii U? Well, neither have I, or anyone, because it never released.
Nintendo's upgraded from not releasing its robot games outside of Japan to not releasing them anywhere at all.
Project Giant Robot exists solely as a tech demo for the Wii U that a couple E3 2015 attendees played, wherein 5 players each take control of a giant robot's extremities as they battle another giant robot, presumably controlled by another 5 players. Some have speculated that the game's assets were recycled and used in Nintendo Labo's robot kit, but comparing the two side by side, yeah, I don't see it. And no, I'm not including the Labo Robot Kit on this list of robot games just to round the number up to 10. It's got less character than R.O.B. You can't even pretend there was ever an attempt to turn this robot concept into something on the level of Mario or Zelda. And there you have it. 9 attempts from Nintendo to launch a robot-centric game series. Why did none of these attempts prove to be successful? Who's to say? Limiting the regional audience for all of these games with the exception of Custom-Robo Arena, the best and worst Chibi-Robo games, and the ones tied to failed peripherals couldn't have helped. But I won't pretend like these series would sell that much better if given wide releases. Except maybe Chibi-Robo and possibly Custom-Robo.
I think that as a rule of thumb, and especially now that Nintendo is Japan's richest company and their hardware isn't region-locked anymore, Nintendo should definitely, always, and without exception, look into localizing their games to give them wide releases. But like I said, whether or not that alone will significantly boost their low-tier franchise's popularity remains to be seen. I mean, it's not like doing that has ever elevated what might have been obscure Japan-only series into multiple console-spanning series with entries breaking the 1 million copies sold mark.
Allow us to introduce ourselves.
Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, like this video, comment your thoughts down below, and consider supporting my Patreon page for as little as $1 a month if you'd like to receive perks that range from getting credited at the end of my videos to being immortalized in your very own Talking Sock Sona. Thanks again for watching. I will see you the next time I see you.